Bottom of the second division to the verge of the Premiership title. Newcastle's Lord Mayor said this was a black day for the city.
It was written all over the faces of Newcastle fans. Stunned surprise. Hundreds made their way to St James's Park as word came through this morning their hero was leaving.
It's terrible for the club, isn't it? It's just a disgrace.
It's a shame that he's gone. I mean, I know over the few weeks have said he's been unhappy, but I didn't think he would resign. Thought he would have stuck it out.
I think it's tragic. Too many people forgetting when they were in the doldrums and he brought them out. But I think there's something underlying here.
There was no sign of Kevin Keegan himself today. He has apparently left the country for a while. Fans received official confirmation of his going when statements were handed out by club officials. A news conference arranged for midday was then hastily cancelled and rearranged for this afternoon. Keegan's deputy, who now takes over temporary management, paid tribute to his former boss.
He's decided to think of himself and his family, and he wants to pursue other things outside of football, and he's got every right to do that.
The decision was made on Monday evening, but the players only learnt the news this morning at a training session. The timing may have something to do with plans Newcastle have to float on the stock market. If Newcastle knew he planned to leave, they would have had to reveal the news to potential investors. There is commercial pressure on the club to find a replacement soon. All the playing staff have been told to keep quiet for 2 days.
Nothing to say about that.
Tributes for Keegan have come from all in football and the North East, and it's the hottest news in a city still reeling.
The fans have been behind him to a man, although the pressure's been on for him to win something this season. They will unquestionably be devastated, and in the short term I think it'll affect the club as well.
Rumours started circulating after Christmas that Keegan would resign following Newcastle's defeat at Blackburn on Boxing Day. He's been the manager at Newcastle since February 1992. The following year he took the club up to the Premiership. Backed by the huge sums of money made available by his chairman Sir John Hall, Keegan bought the best. He paid £7.5 million for Faustino Asprilla and a record £15 million for Alan Shearer in July last year. Attention has inevitably moved to Keegan's successor. The bookies make the former Liverpool and Blackburn manager Kenny Dalglish favourite at 5-4 on. John Toshack, currently a manager in Spain, is quoted at 4-1. And Dutchman Johan Cruyff and Terry McDermott, the caretaker manager, are both 8-1 shots. The fans will want the replacement to be top quality and to be named as soon as possible. Adam Minot, BBC News.
Our correspondent Kevin Geary is at St James's Park, Newcastle United's ground. Kevin, it's a terrible shock for the fans. How are they taking it?
Well, Anna, as you probably know, this city lives its football with a passion that's perhaps unequalled anywhere in England. And naturally, the fans are devastated. The talk has been of nothing but on the metro, at the bus stops, in the bars. They're all talking about it today. But I have to say that the fans aren't shocked because, actually, rumours have been circling for some time here that Keegan was on the point of quitting. The ultimate perfectionist was unable to come to terms with not winning the championship last season and was unhappy with the lack of progress that he'd expected this season. So, in that sense, it's not so much of a shock.
And the rumours, is there more of a story behind it all?
Well, inevitably there are wild rumours floating about that Keegan may have been subjected to external forces. There's no evidence of that at all. There is, though, the evidence that he was unhappy about his wife's health. She's been unwell for a couple of weeks and felt perhaps that the pressure of his job may have contributed to that. We may hear more about that in the days to come.
Well, it doesn't help their challenge for the Premiership title, does it?
It doesn't, no. It is a surprise, in fact, that he's gone when he has, because they're fourth in the table. They're doing very well.
We look back on the career of the man who lit up Tyneside but couldn't fill the trophy cabinet. And we speculate on who might now be appointed to fill the hottest seat in football. Good evening. Rumours began early this morning, and at 10:30 it was confirmed. Kevin Keegan had resigned after nearly 5 years as Newcastle's manager. He'd turned the club into one of the biggest in the country, but it cost his mentor, Sir John Hall, £60 million. And still, the biggest prizes in football eluded them.
Even so, Keegan was adored on Tyneside, and not just by football fans. But outside Newcastle, the game's followers, particularly the London press, doubted whether Keegan had the tactical expertise or strength of character to pull off one of the game's great fairy tales.
There's only one Kevin Keegan! One Kevin Keegan!
They've been singing the same anthem ever since he arrived at St James's 5 years ago, and they're still singing it now he's deserted them. The faces said it all. The man, regarded as a messiah by the Newcastle faithful, had confirmed their worst fears and quit.
Can't really believe it. Just think he's took the easy way out, really.
It's devastating. Like, he was the man for Newcastle. He was Newcastle through and through. Just cannot believe it.
Terrible. It is very sad.
Those who'd watched and worked with Keegan closely over the years had expected this one day, but perhaps not in mid-season when everything had started to go well again.
Following lengthy discussions at which the board tried to persuade Kevin to change his mind, both parties agreed that the best route forward was for the club to reluctantly accept his resignation with immediate effect.
It's all a far cry from the day Keegan took over an ailing Newcastle 5 years ago and transformed the club. But evidence of the toll the pressure had taken was clearly etched on Keegan's face at his last pre-match press conference on Friday.
Newcastle United is a big club. They've just got to get on with it. Kevin has laid the foundations for success there. It's up to whoever comes in and takes over the job to build on that foundation that he's laid.
The shockwaves have been felt far and wide. Labour leader Tony Blair, who once joined Keegan for an impromptu heading session, took time off from a high-pressure election conference to react.
Obviously, I think it's a very great shame. He's a great guy, actually, a lovely man, and I think he gave very good service to the club.
An injured foot.
Not only fans on Tyneside are taking in the shock news today, the worldwide computer link, the internet, broke the news as far afield as America and Australia this morning. More than 2,500 people had called up the Newcastle page by this lunchtime. Well, today's shock news has ramifications off the pitch as well as on. Newcastle United hopes to join the growing list of teams which have floated on the stock exchange. So there's already speculation about how this will affect the team's future financial status. One leading commentator says that a speedy new appointment is absolutely essential.
I think at this stage we've got to assume that the flotation plans will go ahead because the directors of Newcastle United will find a new team manager before they actually get around to visiting the city and talking to institutions. But if there is any uncertainty, then the flotation may well be delayed to a degree.
And there'll be a full report on the financial and business effects of today's news on the club in a special edition of Close Up North tomorrow night on BBC 2 at 7:30. Well, Keegan's first recruit and closest friend is the man who's now jointly charged with looking after the team. Earlier today, I spoke to Terry McDermott. Well, Terry, if I start, when did you know?
Well, it was, obviously over the weekend it was muted. I had a quiet word with Kevin before the game against Charlton, and but there was nothing definite until the other meeting yesterday afternoon, and that was when it was first brought to a head, and then obviously the statement was this morning.
I think what everybody's asking, the question is why?
Well, I mean, Kevin's his own man. Kevin Keegan has always been his own man. Even as a player, he'd done what he thought was right for himself on this occasion, and he did as a player. He's forever thinking of other people, and that's his nature. But for once, or twice, shall we say, he's decided to think of himself and his family, and he wants to pursue other things outside of football, and he's got every right to do that.
Was he worried about his health, the health of the club, the health of his family, or anything like that?
None whatsoever. That was never in the equation. He just had he'd been at the helm for 5 years now. He loved every minute of it. What people should never underestimate is the job he'd done at this football club. He's got this football club from where it is now, and that can never be taken away from him.
Despite it all, or perhaps because of it, the team had a full training session today. Shortly before it started, the players were brought together and those who'd not already heard were formally told the news. Chris Eakin reports.
As the players arrived at the training ground, that was Steve Watson, it wasn't clear just how many had heard the news. It wasn't public at this stage, and security guards were keeping the suspicious media at bay.
I can't really speak at the moment. I'll give me a ring in a bit. Cheers.
No one had time to take their eye off the ball. This was too astonishing an episode in Newcastle's bizarre recent history. The man who takes over for now was having a hectic morning. This was before he spoke outside the ground later in the day. For the observers at the training, the body language was the thing to look out for. And nobody spoke volumes quite like Terry McDermott's. This was not the most convincing training session of the season. Perhaps it was actually a bit of a demonstration. The show goes on. Well, not all of the fans, and there weren't that many, were aware of the news, and when they were told, some wouldn't believe it. It couldn't be true. When did you first hear that Keegan was leaving?
Didn't know.
Do you not know Kevin Keegan's resigned? No, seriously, he has.
Really?
He has, honestly.
I didn't know.
That's why we're all here, because he has resigned.
Honestly.
As players like David Ginola left, they stopped for autographs, but not a lot else.
What's up, gentlemen?
Is it? Can you tell us sort of how you felt about the news?
About the news?
Yeah.
The news about that is freezing in France. 20 degrees under zero in France. It's terrible.
Not the most orthodox reaction, but cunningly meaningless. Les Ferdinand was more straightforward in saying nothing, as was Alan Shearer, and indeed most of the team. Robbie Elliott said a little.
More disbelief than anything else. But as I say, we've been instructed not to say anything, so we can't really go on from there.
So it really was left to the smooth-talking Frenchman. Yeah, I mean, is it business as usual now?
Sorry?
Is it business as usual now?
It's business?
Do you just carry on as normal?
Why not? We are professional, don't forget that.
But it'll be a bit different without the man himself, won't it? Without Kevin Keegan?
Have a nice day.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Unlike his playing career, Keegan's 5 years as a manager proved something of a roller coaster ride. For the man who achieved everything as a player, his dip into management became a seemingly endless procession of emotional highs and lows. Jim Knight reports.
The son of a Yorkshire miner.
As a player, with Liverpool and then Hamburg, Keegan won it all.
Ironically, Newcastle were the victims.
Hall. Keegan! He was even breaking Newcastle hearts then, and with that great Liverpool team, went on to win 3 league titles, the European Cup and 2 UEFA Cups. With Hamburg, he was voted the European Footballer of the Year 2 years running.
Kevin Keegan. Mit der Tagesform des 28-jährigen
His disciplinary record was second to none, but at times there were glimpses of an emotional side to the man, just simmering beneath the surface. The Charity Shield against Leeds in 1974. His love affair with Newcastle began in the twilight of his playing career, but he quickly won a special place in the hearts of the Geordie fans. He bowed out in spectacular fashion in 1984. But 8 years later, he was back to the only professional challenge he still wanted, and back at the only club where he wanted to take it on.
I can honestly say that there's no job in football I've ever wanted. This is the only job I've ever wanted.
There was quick success, promotion to the Premiership. Then came the big signings, and with them, inevitably, came the pressure. Over Andy Cole's controversial departure, Keegan was ready to face the fans head-on.
If I make a mess of it, you chant me to go. You know I'm to go. But I understand your problems. Leave it with us.
With each passing season and no silverware to show, so the pressure mounted. Even the tumultuous arrival of Shearer couldn't ease the strain, and after a poor European performance in Sweden, the cracks began to show.
Very disappointing. I just think it's... I was a player who always went out to play 100%, so I can't relate to a performance like that. I tried, but I can't see the sense in us coming over here being like that. We prepared them right. The hotel was good, the food was good, the training was good. the performance was abysmal.
By last month, Keegan was nearing breaking point.
When you're talking about calling referees, ask Martin Keown to talk about Dixon last year and how he got into it. And then we'll have a debate.
By his own incredibly high standards, Keegan will probably feel he failed as a manager. Others might disagree, but Keegan, by his very nature, will be harder on himself than most.
Well, only he knows the real reasons for his departure. Keegan says merely he no longer wants to carry on as a football manager. But that briefest of statements begs more questions than it answers. For someone who's so squarely in the public eye, he was a remarkably private man.
65 years.
It could hardly have been a more public role. People across the globe know his name, and on Tyneside he'd become legendary, as famous as the Tyne Bridge. But he'd shy away from the spotlight if ever the media's gaze looked like homing in on his private life. He did face the camera, though, following a bizarre incident just before he joined Newcastle United. While on his way from Spain to see his wife, he was attacked with a baseball bat as he lay sleeping in his car in a lay-by in Surrey.
And it took me what seemed like an eternity to realise I was actually being quite viciously attacked with a baseball bat. Second blow hit me in the side of the head. Third blow, I got my shoulder up to block it, unfortunately. And the guy was just a maniac.
Years later, when a news photographer hired an aircraft to get shots of Keegan's new home on Sir John Hall's Wynyard estate, he was banned from St James's Park. Only rarely were Keegan's wife and children on public display. But there was no problem with this picture. It's Keegan's grandfather, a hero of the 1909 West Stanley pit disaster. It was a rare insight into the Keegan family history, but it was as football manager charged with winning silverware that the stresses began to show. After 5 years at the helm, the passing years may have brought out the grey, but his increasing tetchiness was giving cause for concern. When Manchester United manager Alex Ferguson suggested Leeds might give Newcastle an easy 3 points for the Championship, he took it as a personal insult.
When you do that with footballers, like he said about Leeds, and when you do things like that about a man like Stuart Pearce, I've kept really quiet, but I'll tell you something, he went down in my estimation when he said that.
Fans have watched the apparent slide in Keegan's enthusiasm for the job with dismay. One season ticket holder who lectures in psychology feels the pressure is self-inflicted.
Time and time again in the press, he's been quoted as saying things like, we've got to win this season, we've got to get silverware. And I think he's set himself all of these sorts of targets, perhaps more than the fans themselves have really set him. He seems to have set his own targets and he doesn't seem to have perhaps lived up to his own standards, I don't know.
Reporters waiting outside Keegan's home have not caught sight of him yet. He may have chosen a new path, but the fans he leaves behind won't be happy until he gives a reason for his departure.
Well, speculation is already growing about Keegan's successor. Bookmakers William Hill have made the man who replaced Keegan as a player at Liverpool, Kenny Dalglish, as the 4-5 on favourite. Johan Cruyff, one of the world's greatest footballers, is 4-1. At 12-1 is the current Barcelona manager, Bobby Robson. Jack Charlton is 33-1, and if you fancy backing outsiders, then Gaza is 100-1.